I've got 8 random questions. You pick 3 numbers, and that's where we start. So what is your first number, 1 through 8?
3.
This question I really do love, and I feel like we should talk about these things more often. We call it the little things. I just want to know a seemingly silly small thing in your everyday life that brings you joy. Something someone else might think is no big deal, but it just means something to you and makes you happy.
My dog makes me happy.
What kind of dog?
I have an English bulldog.
Oh my God, there's lots to love there.
Yeah, he's really cute.
What's your dog's name?
Biz, B-I-Z.
Okay. Biz.
Yeah.
All right, I'll add in a question we have on the list every so often. I didn't have it today. It is a pet question. What is the most above and beyond thing you've ever done for your pet?
I don't know. Every day I do something. I mean, he has like a really nice life. Like, he just does whatever he wants. Yeah. That's what I do.
We live to serve. Which
yeah,
is exactly
I know,
how it should be.
Exactly.
All right, you got your second number here. We've got a 3. What is your next one?
7.
Number 7 is also a really nice one. I just want to know a film or show that you've seen recently that has inspired you or just maybe given you hope for the future of film and television.
A TV show. Well, it's not that it's actually quite depressing, but I thought it was just phenomenal. Was Baby Reindeer.
So good. Yeah. So well done.
So well done.
That's an excellent example right there. I'll take that. All right, your last number for Dicey Questions.
Okay. Dicey Questions. I don't want to give a dicey answer.
Many people have. You'd be in good company.
Yes. 5.
Number 5 is one of the meatier acting questions. I also love this one. It's called favorite, least favorite. I want to know your single favorite part of the acting process, like meeting your co-stars, putting a costume on, anything you want, but then also not necessarily your least favorite, but just a part of the process where you still see room to grow for yourself.
I would say my favorite part is the prep work, getting to know the person that I'll be spending the most time with, which is like, not just the person that I'm playing. And, I guess I'm always constantly feeling like I have room to grow for everything. So I don't really know. It's kind of, I always want to feel like I'm learning something new.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Ladies Night. I'm so thrilled to welcome Julia Garner to the show for Wolfman. Congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
What is the movie you saw, the performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor?
A Woman Under the Influence.
Rock solid choice right there. I can understand
and
why.
I always, the amount of time I've mentioned All About Eve is like annoying, but that one too, probably.
If it inspires you, you mention it away. And also, like, truly, it's a classic, but sometimes you saying it will make someone watch it who's never bothered to push play, so it's important. So, first steps here with getting into acting. I was doing a little reading, and I've heard you speak about the fact that you first got into acting to combat shyness when you were younger. I have 2 questions about that. First, what did you think it was about the art of acting that would help you combat that versus maybe any other way you could choose to deal with it?
That I felt like I could have a voice using other people's words.
I like the way you just put that.
sharing my own words in a way. I felt more comfortable doing that.
I think that makes all the sense in the world. So you make that decision that you want to get into acting. And then I know you started to do some acting classes. And I always love hearing about classes like that. And also when someone works with an acting coach. So with being shy and taking those classes, what was something about the way they taught acting that gave you the courage to jump in and try it, even though you were on the shyer side?
I think I was so, it's going to sound so depressing, I think I was so used to failing as a kid in a way that I was kind of like, well, what's the worst mentality? So might as well put yourself out there. And I feel like that is the most important thing is failure.
Oh, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. So, you can still be shy and still put yourself out there.
Oh, it's so true.
Most actors that I know, they were shy or they still are, and they kind of have no choice because of the industry that we're in. But Yeah, that's how it starts.
The joke I make always, and it's not really a joke because I do think it's my truth, is I could sit here and talk to someone in one of these settings all day long. If you put me in like an everyday social situation, I just want to like go in the corner and not be seen.
Yeah.
I don't get it. They just don't equal one another at all. So you take those classes. Do you remember the specific point that you made the decision for yourself? Like, I don't just enjoy acting, but I want to make it my world in a sense. I want to make it my profession and go down this path.
I think I love people. I find people fascinating. I think, if I wasn't an actor, I would do some kind of social work. I would go, I don't know, therapist. I don't know, do some kind of social work. And just the study of people fascinates me. So, yeah. So I love it because it's people's stories. Mm-hmm.
I'll go off my little roadmap and ask you a broader question about all the characters you've played. With that mentality, is there any particular character that I guess was like the most mind-blowing in terms of like discovering who they are when you have that kind of interest?
I try to pick all my characters like that. I think like you're not going to pick people, you as a person aren't going to pick people that you don't find interesting to be your friends.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true.
And it's the same thing with the characters. True. You're not going to pick people that, because, you can't force depth and curiosity. Like with curiosity, behind curiosity, then you get depth in a way. And you can't force something to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good way to put it. So taking one of the first steps towards booking your first feature film. And I also have to ask about this because I'm a Columbia Film alum, and I know you've worked with some of my friends.
Somebody like wrote on the internet, like, I went to Columbia. I'm like, I was not smart enough to go to Columbia, but
you worked with a lot of the wonderful people
yes, I did
who were there.
Yes.
With that, do you remember how you kind of got into that space working on those student films? And I was also wondering what you thought it was about working with directors who were like still learning and finding their voice that suited you as a growing actor.
Well, I didn't know any better. I didn't know I had no connection to the industry like at all. So I was like, well, how can I get in? And this was at the time where there was like still backstage and stuff where you could like circle and highlight and, before the internet, really. But I had an acting teacher, my first acting teacher, Peter Miner, who taught, did you know Peter?
I did.
He was incredible. So he was one of my first acting teachers, and he was a professor at Columbia. And so he was like, oh, you should do some like student like exercises there. And then I met some like student filmmakers there. And with that, one of the student filmmakers there, actually, his girlfriend was casting Skins, the American version of Skins, and that same casting director a few months later cast Martha Marcy May Marlene. And that was my first job, and that was with Chris Abbott.
Susan Shopmaker, right?
Yeah, Susan Shopmaker.
I love asking about auditions in general, but especially when you're first starting out, that space can be a little scary. What is something about the way Susan and her team runs the audition space that, maybe didn't completely obliterate the nerves that come with auditioning, but teed you up for success with those auditions?
I think Susan Shopmaker has the most like unbelievable eye. I mean, the talent that she finds and discovers is like unmatched. I owe like my whole career from Susan Shopmaker. So she gave me my start.
I will talk about casting directors as long as I possibly can, because they deserve all the credit in the world, and often they don't get it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So from there, I'll jump to...
They're an actor's best friend.
No, it's so incredibly true. I'll jump from there to Martha Marcy May Marlene. Quite a few questions about that. First, because that was your first feature film and you were surrounded by a lot of very experienced veterans. Is there any...
What's funny is that everybody was like 23 years old when they did it. So
I was thinking like, that when I looked it up, too.
Yeah, it was like, I'm like, now we're all, well, they're a veteran, I guess, but like, we were all like, I mean, I was actually a child. I was 16. I didn't even graduate high school till like, 2 years later. But they were also babies.
I always think what I was doing at 16, and the fact that someone could like act like a professional at that age and make a movie.
I didn't know what I was doing. I learned how to be on a movie set. I didn't know, like, I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what Sundance was. Like, I didn't know anything.
And then you found out big time.
Yeah,
with
I thought
one.
every like first premiere was at Eccles.
I have so many follow-up questions to that. This is a question I love asking often, but because that was your first time making a feature film, do you remember maybe like a seemingly silly question about what it takes to make a movie that you were afraid to ask when you were first starting out?
No, I think I was just so afraid to be bad. I was like, was that okay? Was that okay? Like, it just was so awkward. I mean, like, you're 16 years old. It's like, it's already an awkward age to like kind of be, to begin with. So
at that point, was anybody like a safety blanket of sorts? Like when you had those doubts, you would turn to them?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, everybody making that project, I couldn't have asked for a better project for a first project to be a part of.
Is there anything specific you remember someone on that set doing that made you say, like, I admire and appreciate that, and now I'm going to do that on my future sets going forward?
No, I think that, the thing that I noticed about that set is, and there were other sets in the future that felt like that. I mean, even Ozark, the big TV show, felt like that. It had almost like a school or like summer camp feel to it. Like there was a sense of like community. And I think that's really important in filmmaking because it comes across on screen.
Probably the benefit of shooting on location with a first film like that too.
Yes,
it's a beautiful environment to have. So that movie is released. It is very, very well received. What would you say is the biggest difference between the types of opportunities that were coming your way before the film's release and then after?
Well, that one I had such a small part, so I don't really count that one. But, I don't know. I think, I mean, with Ozark especially, that one was really game changer for me in my career because the roles were these not these just like these submissive women that were getting offered to me. They had like a voice and they had an opinion, and I think that was coming my way after that.
That makes
sense. Yeah.
And you're like also like a force in Wolfman. Like that's a character with like real agency and power. And I love that. I do want to go back before digging into more Ozark questions because Electrick Children, Becca was a Columbia alum. I got to highlight her here. So you do that after you do Martha Marcy May Marlene, and your second feature, you're number one on the call sheet. I think that
I think it was like third, or I don't even remember, but yeah, something like early. Yeah,
such an honor to be the lead of a movie. So I guess what would you say surprised you most about what it meant to be a lead, not just on camera, but also on set to contribute to a positive environment there?
Well, everything was like in the very beginning of my career, everything was like a test. I was still young enough that I was like, okay, well, maybe I can change the business and like see where it goes. Fingers crossed. But that job, I kind of wanted to see if I could carry a film because that's hard. I kind of wanted to see if I could do that and be consistent, with the continuity with the story and all that stuff, and emotional continuity.
Two follow-up questions to that. Do you remember the specific moment when you kind of stopped and said, like, I did it? Did you have that confidence on set, or was it when you saw the full piece cut together?
I never, it's so funny. My favorite part, again, is prep. I like getting to know the people that I'm playing. It's not like it's like I'm not a business person at all, which is like, it's so not, it's so funny when, you have artists in this field and, they're going into this business type of world. It's like, it goes everything against in a way.
Yeah. The two things go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's interesting.
My brain heavily values one over the other, and sometimes I have a hard time computing the other. The other follow-up question I had because of something you just said in that earlier answer, and I wasn't going to ask you this, but I've gotten in the habit of asking it kind of recently because I love the idea. Did you see the movie Maxine?
Yeah, amazing.
So you know how Elizabeth Debicki plays a director in that movie, and at one point she says, I think she says to Maxine, she's like, if this movie we're making takes off, it's going to allow me to have like a bigger voice as a female director in Hollywood. So because of that, I started to ask this a lot. When you first started out, what did you think it meant to have a meaningful voice in film and television? And now all these years later, has that definition evolved for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's getting better, but I don't think it's completely like out of the woodworks in a way. Like sometimes I advise my my writer friends to write the characters as male and then change the name to female, because it's like a automatic thing. Like you just, I don't know. It's weird. So I think, but it's getting better.
What an interesting exercise. I'm going to start thinking about that now often. Going back to my roadmap, because I love all genres. Horror is my number one. And after Electrick Children, you do 2 horror movies that I like quite a bit. The Last Exorcism Part 2 and We Are What We Are. I think the first time we ever spoke was for We Are What We Are. At that time, what would you say was the biggest misconception you had about what it takes to make a horror movie specifically?
The emotional stamina. I mean, you expect it, but you don't really know until it happens. And I think you become I feel like you become, I don't want to say a better actor, but I think you become a more confident actor after an experience like that, because it's not, doing acting in horror is not easy.
No.
It's really, really, really hard.
No. Is there a favorite part of horror acting for you? Like something you know you can only get from this genre that other ones do not give you the opportunity to do? Whether it's like a type of character or even like working with the blood and guts and that kind of stuff.
The thing that always interests me about horror is almost in the same way that, you know, how people talk about comedy, which is timing. So that's always like a challenge. And and timing's so important in film.
Yeah.
You can like, you know, and a lot of that has to do with edit. You know, you can ruin a movie with edit. Like if it's edited differently, it could ruin the movie or it could save the movie. So a lot of it's also just timing too. And also the actors, how they time the scream or the scare, the jump scare.
Makes all the difference. It's like timing, the edit. And one thing I vividly remember from that film school program was having a big conversations about the importance of inserts in horror movies.
Inserts and also wides. Because I feel like a lot of times, like, I get so frustrated whenever I see a film and they don't use like a wide enough, because the location is a character in the movie. And it kind of reminds people how small the person is, and that's really real.
No, it's so true. Especially with a couple shots that I see in this.
Yeah. You're like, oh my God, it's terrifying.
Definitely leans into that quite a bit. So the next title on my little roadmap here is The Americans, which you did before doing Ozark. I mean, the answer to this might be no, but I am curious, is there anything about doing The Americans first that gave you confidence that Ozark would be a good first series regular opportunity? Like, did it teach you anything about what you appreciated in making a TV show that you knew you would get a lot from in that next project?
Well, the writing in The Americans is incredible. I was a fan of the show even before I joined. I came on, I joined season 3, and then I was on for 3 seasons because it was on for 6 seasons. And, you know, how they wrote that show was almost like a really well done movie in a way. They wrote it like every episode was like a movie, a mini movie. And I think the best TV is like a mini movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I get that vibe. So going to Ozark now, I don't know how clearly you remember all this because it was a little while ago at this point, but recently had an actor explain to me that when they start a new TV show, it can be scary but exciting because you start out and you're kind of on unstable ground with a new character, but then you have that aha moment where like, you know, you have just figured out who they are. Mm. Did you have that with Ruth? And if so, when?
I had that, well, I had some time to sit with her a little, like a few, like not that much, like 2-3 months. And then I did have that aha moment for that something really clicked, and you get to spend a longer time with that character and that person. And there's something, and then you just know them so well. That's what I love about TV is how well you get to know a character. I wish time is the biggest luxury as an actor.
That is true. I very much understand that. So another question with Ozark, and this is something that I love asking in general, but your situation is a little different because I feel like most people that I've asked this to, like they have one wonderful honor, like they have won an Emmy or they've won an Oscar. You've won 3 Emmys. That's a really big deal. I know that is not why you do the work, but when you get something like an Emmy, it can really mean something to you depending on, where you're at in life or in your career. So of those 3 wins, is there any particular one that just has that extra special meaning where like it hit at just the right moment for you?
The first one. Anytime I watch, honestly, if I watch an award show and I hear anybody calling a name, I just go like this, because it's such an out of body experience that it's But the first one. And also just you can't believe it. But honestly, even the other ones, I couldn't believe it too. But the first time you can't get that back.
It's such a beautiful thing. I love that. All right, here's where I get into dangerous territory, because before I start veering into Wolfman, I want to ask about 2 future projects. Fantastic Four. I think I have 2 safe questions and then one you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But the first thing that I'm curious about is, how does what you look for in a project and a role change when it's a big franchise versus any other kind of film or show?
Well, I think depending on the film, some films are more visual than others. So I think costumes and visuals, that sometimes it's more important than other films. But yeah, I can't say too much.
Yeah, no, I know. I'll try this next one if you don't want to answer it though. Free to pass. When you first signed on for the role, what single thing about the project were you most excited to do? But then also, is there anything about that process that wound up being more creatively fulfilling than you ever could have imagined at the start?
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I can't talk much about it, but I will say the Fantastic Four, they are fantastic actors. They are doing fantastic performances in it, and they're fantastic people.
I believe it, or I haven't even seen the movie, and I already have full faith that's the case.
Yes.
The other upcoming movie I wanted to ask about, because, already I love horror, is Weapons, and I have a lot of faith in Zach Cregger and what he's doing in this industry. So
that was one of my favorite shoots.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Been movie. It was amazing. Yeah.
I'll ask a 2-part question about this. First, just in general, what is it about the horror genre that keeps you coming back for more? But then also, can you tell me something unique about Weapons that makes it stand out when it comes to horror storytelling?
It's not a proper horror movie. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. It feels very Zach Cregger in that element that there's some comedic elements to it. Barbarian felt like that as well. I mean,
Barbarian was very one of a kind.
Exactly. Well. So this also feels like that, and So I'm excited. I'm excited for people to see it and hear their response.
You got so much cool stuff coming up. Yeah. I love it. Before I jump into Wolfman, I did want to make sure to ask 1 or 2 of my favorite performance questions, because in general, I'm endlessly fascinated by your craft, because there's so many different ways to approach being an actor. So first one, big question about all the scene partners you've ever had. Of all the actors you've ever worked with, can you name someone who has a very similar approach to the work as your own, where you met and you were immediately in sync? But then I also want the opposite, someone who challenged you to adapt and maybe try something new.
I don't know if I've gotten challenged in that way, but that was very different. I think my friend on Ozark, who plays my cousin Charlie Tahan, we're very in sync. He's one of my best friends, and so we were very in sync immediately. And and Jason, obviously he was in the show, acted, but he also produced and directed. And I've never had a director push me in the way that Jason pushed me. And that's, I will work with him on anything. So it's, So
I love that.
I love working with Jason.
I'll follow up on Jason briefly, because that's an important thing. What does he do that pushes you, but also makes you feel safe and supported?
Yeah, he'll see things that I'm not capable of seeing. And then he'll push me in that direction. And I think that's what makes a great director, from a good to a great director.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to kind of turn this idea towards you specifically now, because again, I love the fact that there's so many techniques. I love the fact that like your approach to the work could evolve over the years depending on the experiences you had. Can you name an acting technique that you've held tight to since day one? You still do it to this day, but then also maybe something you've tried more recently for the first time?
No. I'm sorry. Well, I don't want to give it away.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair.
Yeah, because I think that is, I never want to feel like people are being like, I saw that in an interview with that she said, you know. So I think, but yeah, I'll say this. I always view, and I said this before, the audience is almost like the character's subconscious in a way. So they have to feel like they're emotionally, that's what's going to make them connected, I feel like.
I hear you on that.
Yeah.
Not exactly that, but I'll build on that, teetering into Wolfman now. When this opportunity first came your way, what was it about the project and the character specifically that made you think, you know what, like I have something to gain from this as an actor who is always evolving my craft? I
think the thing that interested me with this film was that it took place in one night, which is, and doing anything in one day. I did that with Grandma. We shot, like, it took place in one day, and that was really hard. But this was like, that was a comedy. I mean, it was still hard, but this was, you know, this kind of movie, and, you know, had the different stages of grief, and it took place in one night. So that was just challenging. I knew that was going to be challenging. And of course I was like, okay, so this is hard, so I'm going to do it. Because for whatever reason, I'm addicted to things that are hard.
It's not a challenge. Yes. Like, is it even worth doing?
No, because exactly. You want to always learn. You want to get something. You want to learn. You want to be a constant student.
Yeah.
I feel like
it goes both ways. It makes it more stimulating for us as fans of your work, and that's what keeps me coming back for more.
Yes, you never want it to be too easy.
No, never. You brought up the stages of grief there, and I did have a question about that because I know that was heavily mentioned in our press notes. What is it like mapping out? I don't even know if you have to do this actually. Do you have to map out all the stages and like really be very well aware of where you are with each scene you're shooting?
Yes, because also you can kind of pick up what stage of grief it is. Some of it's like, you know, pain. Some of it's like denial. Some of it is anger. Some of it is bargaining. Some of it is desperation. And then you get to a point where you have acceptance in a way. And then that comes at the very end. I mean, you see it in the film, like that she's just accepting what the situation is and just trying to protect her family.
All right, I'm gonna go to your family now. Specifically, I'll ask about working with Christopher, who is phenomenal. So oftentimes I find that when you're playing partners, when you're playing a couple on screen, like, yes, you have a great script to work with, but you can always find so much of your character through your scene partners. So is there anything about him and his approach to the work that helped you tap into something in your own character that maybe you didn't even realize was there?
Yeah, I mean, just the just the fact of the practical makeup and his facial expressions, and, you know, he looked so different, but his eyes like still looked the same. Like he still had Chris's eyes. And once, you know, they called action, it was, I saw him, but he wasn't himself. So it was like I was almost more, had this need to connect because I still recognized him in some moments.
That's something else. Did seeing him do all that heavy makeup and prosthetic work make you ever want to try that in the future?
Depending on what the project is and if it's for the story, yeah. I'm open to anything.
So it's so much. I was very impressed by how he carries it, and also in terms of the makeup team, how much of him still comes through with all of that on, which is always like the sweet spot with that kind of character. So how about working with Leigh now? Can you tell me something specific about the way he runs a set where, like, if anyone stepped on that set, they would immediately know, like, that's a Leigh Whannell movie?
I feel like any sort of having panicking. I feel like all his, movies, there's always someone panicking. So that's like kind of a dead giveaway. It feels like.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Does Leigh have a monitor dance? Like something he does behind the monitor that signals to you he is loving a take?
No, I don't. It's so funny because there's always a tent and I can never see anybody's face. It sounds so not glamorous, but it's true. And also I think I kind of when I'm filming, I kind of disassociate in a way. It's it's weird. It's and I also notice the worse you feel, the more likely that the take is probably the better take. But that's there's something very bizarre to know. You're just you feel really horrible inside, and then everyone's that's great.
Oh, I have two questions about that. First, on the beginning side of it, what are some things you like to do to really get yourself there? So when they call action, you are kind of at an 11 if the scene calls for it.
That I'm left alone. It's funny because when people are making this whole big discussion about method acting, right? And it's whatever that means, right? But it's one of those things. It's it's very easy to get distracted on set. Everybody needs to do their job. There's always distractions every 5 minutes. So just to kind of regroup and just be by yourself with that character that you're playing and then go into the scene without a distraction because that is your reality.
That makes all the sense in the world. So when you say be by yourself, is it also quiet and very in your head versus, let's say, an actor, which is a totally fine way to go about it, who chooses to listen to music to get in the zone?
Whatever is going to get into the zone, there's no right or wrong. Whatever is going to get you there to get the realest performance, that's the right way.
That's why Ladies' Night exists, to highlight that there's no right or wrong.
Exactly.
So then the back half of that, so you've just done a really tough scene. What is the first thing you like to do to kind of snap out of it?
It's funny. I get weirdly internal. I don't know. If we're gonna do a different setup, then maybe I'll have a tea and a piece of chocolate or something just to bring my energy back up.
That is a good combo, right?
Yeah.
Wait, actually, I'm going to follow up on that. What kind of chocolate? That's an important question.
Dark chocolate.
That's the right answer.
Yeah, dark chocolate.
I've definitely offended many people out there, but I don't care.
Depends. I feel if milk chocolate, it depends on what where you're getting it, from what country. If you're getting Swiss chocolate, milk chocolate, it's different than American milk chocolate.
That's a different story.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that part of it. I'm okay with that version of milk chocolate.
Exactly.
So because of what we're just talking about, it's making me think of this question, which I've gotten in the habit of asking a lot recently. I was talking to a director who told me about how happy it made him to see his actors take such pride and joy in their work on set. And he was talking about making a horror movie, and it's heavy stuff that you're doing here. But even then, can you recall the single moment of making Wolfman that made you feel the most joy as an artist?
I think just how, as hard as it was, how intense it was, the intense work, I think, made it cool in a weird way. I think just the intense emotion constantly, as hard and at times awful as that was, it made me I don't know, the emotionally I feel like I can handle a lot.
So
maybe
confidence in.
I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, I feel I think every actor should do horror at least once in their life.
I mean, that's my favorite genre. I feel send that out into the world. I need some more people to fall in love with in these movies. Before I put up the spoiler warning to talk about a couple of scenes a little more freely, what is your personal favorite subgenre of horror to watch?
Right now, I can't think of anything that right now comes to mind.
Fair enough.
Yeah. The movie that I watch once a year at least, or no, every few, is Silence of the Lambs. I love that. It's a perfect movie. that's like a perfect psychological thriller.
I like that. Yeah. Anytime someone references Silence of the Lambs, I'm like, yes, that is right.
Yeah.
We need to speak that one out loud.
I've watched it often. So much that I'm not even afraid of it anymore, but I'm still kind of afraid of it or scared when I watch it.
Every single time I watch it, I am brought back to being like a teenager watching it for the very first. Like I vividly remember like the room I was in, the people I was with.
No, it's like it's one of those experiences that you just like never forget the first time you watch it. And you kind of wish that you never watched it, so it's the first time that you watched it.
Whenever someone says with a classic movie that I love that they've never seen it, I never get mad because I'm so excited.
I'm jealous. I'm literally jealous. I'm like, that's nice. That's really nice.
All the time.
Yeah. But then they're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to see it. I'm like, I don't think we can be friends.
Yeah. If that's the response, forget it. We're done. But hopefully they're open-minded and then they let good like that into their life because that movie is top tier.
Yes.
So at this point, I will put up the spoiler warning for Wolfman. It is very easy to avoid spoilers. You just push pause, you go out and you see the movie, and then you come back to this video and you push play and the conversation starts again right here and you're safe. So, big, broad question. Feel free to say whatever you want at this point. Of all of the scenes in this movie, going into filming, which did you think was going to be the toughest for you? And ultimately, was it, or did a different one catch you by surprise?
It's such a difficult question because I feel like this was a really great shoot, but it was a really hard shoot. And I feel like every day was really, really hard. Like it was mentally, physically, like it was a hard shoot. So I don't have like one specific, and it was funny because when I read the script, I kind of knew that. I was like, oh, this is going to be a hard scene. This is going to be a hard scene. This is going to be a hard scene. And I'm like, well, the whole movie is hard.
There's quite a few because I'm thinking of, like the greenhouse and the truck that involve a little more stunts. And then there's also a lot of like deeply emotional things between you and Chris that, I mean, this is why I'm not an actor, that like, I don't know how my headspace would ever enter that zone.
Yeah, for sure.
I am really curious to hear about the whole wolf vision thing and what it's like doing that from your perspective. When, I think about that shot, my favorite shot in the movie. It's the one in the barn, and it's going from human vision to wolf vision and back again.
So cool.
For you as an actor in that moment, like, what does that entail? What does it feel like to you? How is it choreographed? Things like that.
It was just really cool just to like be there and, that was one of the things that I read in the script that really stuck out to me and was kind of like an easy, that was one of the things that sold me, was actually that moment of going back and forth between human and wolf vision. I really loved that.
I thought that was a really good touch. When it comes to Chris's makeup, now that we could push it a little further, like, was there any specific stage where when you saw him, it was kind of like jaw on the floor? Like, I can't believe that's you.
Yeah, like the minute he got out of his makeup trailer, I was like, oh my God, like crazy.
Yeah,
like, it was. I could not stop looking at him, and I was just like, it's you, but it's like not you.
When he's carrying all of that on him, is there anything you can do or like to do for him as a scene partner so that even though he's just sat through like 7 hours of makeup, he's still in a good place when you're doing scenes together?
Oh, like he's still like, hey, I just had a coffee. And I'm like, no, because, again, I'm kind of focusing on like how I can get there, and he's focusing on how he can get there. So, whatever his process, everybody's process is like very different. Mm-hmm. There's no right or wrong process as long as you get there and you're being generous, and we got the shot.
You got quite a few shots.
Yeah, exactly.
So as we wind down ladies' night, I often like to end with one particular question. I'm going to squeeze in one more, though. For you, what is a single thing left on your acting bucket list that you have still yet to tick? You've yet to do it, and you're eager to give it a try.
A musical.
I didn't ask him this exact question, but Chris said something similar.
Oh, really?
He's had an interest in dance. He was telling me about the movement coach he worked with, who I think leans a little more dance for this. And he wants to, I want to see you two do a musical together.
Yeah. That's funny.
You could pick a musical to be in. Like if you could pick a stage-to-screen musical adaptation to star in.
Well, I wouldn't want to like do anything like like a.
Well, that's fair.
I don't know, like a remake. But I would love it if. I mean, there's only one Fosse, but I would love like a Fosse style musical movie. That would be amazing. But there's only one Fosse. I would not do a remake of, any of Fosse movies.
Something in that vein.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, like Funny Girl. Or there's a list can go on and on and on.
Bring it on. Yes. I like to call Collider Ladies Night a manifestation space. Yes. So hopefully we've spoken it into existence. Now, this is always the very last question on Collider Ladies Night. A lot of people don't like this question. I don't care. I think it's an important thing to think about. So in this industry, we give each other awards. I do think that's really great. We should keep doing that. I find that nobody tells themselves good job, though, as much as they should. Can you tell me something you accomplished making Wolfman that you can always look back on and say, you know what? I am so proud of what I did there.
Such a hard question.
I've gotten that reaction many a time.
Yeah, I got it done. But it was like every day, I was, the amount of like water that I was chugging and the in between takes was crazy just to like produce more tears. Or just to, yeah, exactly. Or being on like the verge of crying and panicking and all that stuff. Yeah.
I think that's a totally reasonable answer. And as a genre lover, thank you for all of the water you drank to make it happen.
To make it happen, exactly.
I'm going to say big congratulations on everything you've accomplished, on Wolfman, everything coming your way in the future. Such a pleasure to have you on Ladies' Night.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.